Hi everyone, welcome to Red Men TV. We're live here covering the Liverpool latest news, latest transfer, bits and pieces. There's a lot to get through. And I want to ask a question to the people watching live right now for the YouTube comments, answers alongside or below. Which of the transfer rumours that we're going to cover today prompted Andy App to write, "My gran has got more chance of playing for Liverpool and she's been dead for nearly 10 years." Which of the players in world football who've been linked with Liverpool do we think Andy App is talking about there? Yeah, we'll come to that. We're going to be talking Fabio Carvalho, a couple of little twists, pardon me, in his loan move to RB Leipzig. The news, obviously, Luis Diaz taking the number 7 shirt. James Pearce has been answering questions over on The Athletic and gave a little insight into the future of Thiago Alcantara, Joel Matip, and touched a little bit again on Ryan Gravenberch as well. Jeremy Doku is back on the agenda, apparently, and brace yourselves, because apparently Liverpool are happy to spend a ludicrous amount of money on Kylian Mbappe. Listen, I'm just repeating the words that I've seen written from a person on the internet, which means it's got to be true, right? That's how it all works. Okay, let's start with Fabio Carvalho from one extreme to another. And this is definitely something that looks like it is actually going to happen. But the Sam Field been writing that Liverpool rejected 2 extra stipulations in the Fabio Carvalho loan. They say he was expected to complete a temporary switch to Leipzig later this week, having struggled for game time. Liverpool were required to move the goalposts on more than one occasion in talks with Leipzig, who initially wanted to sign Carvalho permanently. We've obviously discussed this before, but just to reiterate the story, an offer of £10.3 million was dismissed, as it would have landed the club just £1.7 million in profit, owing to various clauses in their deal with Fulham. Then, according to German publication Kicker, Leipzig attempted to negotiate a 2-year loan with an option to buy. Liverpool's new sporting director, Jörg Schmadtke, is said to have operated with a heavy hand as both stipulations were rejected outright. Now, it's interesting because I think this is kind of framed as a good thing. The general tone of that is, no, he's been quite forthright. He's gone in there and sorted it out. Whereas if you use the expression heavy-handed, it tends to mean not a good thing. It tends to have negative connotations. Like if you've been a bit heavy-handed, it means that you've gone a little bit too hard or been a bit over the top. But we'll see whether that implies that this is on the verge of scuppering the deal. But that's not the case. Says instead, Carvalho will spend 1 season at the Red Bull Arena with no set fee for his purchase next summer, as his long-term future remains at Anfield. It is, of course, rare for a player to leave Liverpool on loan and return to reclaim a first-team role, though it has occurred under Jurgen Klopp. And then the article goes on to make some examples. Divock Origi, they say, is the prime example of which, but also Taki Minamino and Harvey Elliott are also ones who've gone on to play senior appearances for Liverpool and have an impact after having been out on season-long loans. But yeah, I mean, let me know your thoughts on the Carvalho stuff. It does feel a strange one to move him on. It feels like a value protection service to me. Obviously, a lot of the talk was about him actually Liverpool hoping to get him a Premier League loan, but it looks like Carvalho has opted to join Leipzig instead of the proposed deals from someone like West Ham, for example. Yeah, I mean, maybe best case scenario, he comes back with another year of senior football under his belt, some Champions League football, I guess, under his belt as well, and is a more complete footballer. And maybe Liverpool have got an option to use him. Maybe it just doesn't feel like he was. I think of the signings Liverpool have made in the last year. I think Gakpo is an example of us going back to tried and tested. Diaz, I feel, was trying to replicate some of the things that Sadio Mane was doing in terms of his dribble and his close control and the fight on the ball and off the ball. But Darwin Núñez and Carvalho felt like a move towards something else. They felt like our attempt to do what City had done in Erling Haaland and Julian Alvarez. But it's like we've abandoned that model somehow, and yeah, Carvalho is an obvious example right now of us maybe backtracking a little bit and trying to not to lose value and obviously to actually grow value because Liverpool are going to need money to, Liverpool want to maintain their strength in the market by making sure you get good value for players. You want players to be worth more for having been at Liverpool than when you sign them in. Is the basics of that. Makes you wonder what would happen with Darwin Núñez if they hadn't spent that much money on him. But yeah, more to be said about that, and more to be seen when pre-season comes around, of course. But yeah, there is that. I mean, look, obviously Liverpool will wish him all the best, of course. But I'd like to see him. I think he's definitely got something. He's got a gift for being in the right place at the right time. But yeah, it seems strange to me that we're not using him in a world where we've got Europa League football. Yeah. Michael Owens, who I bet you've had a fun time over your life. I bet that S has not been noticed anywhere near as much as you would like it to have been. Hi, Paul. I like Fabio, but for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out yet. I wonder if it's a physicality thing, as he seems versatile. See, yeah, I think the physicality thing, but I'm actually a bit surprised at how lacking in versatility he was. He didn't really suit the midfield slot. I mean, look, he hasn't played enough football to really make any cast iron decisions on him, of course. He didn't look great when he played off the left. I thought we might have gotten joy out of him playing off the left, but then Liverpool are very well stocked in that position. He seems to come alive when he's in and around the penalty area. He possesses that trait that Coutinho never had naturally, was that inclination to be inside the 18-yard box, to get on the end of things, to be finishing stuff, to arrive at the right times. But yeah, it is a bit of a strange one. Is a bit of a strange one indeed. Clearly, people want to talk more about the headline article from this show, but so we'll start to move through this a little bit. Just a quick one to touch upon it. We saw this yesterday. We talked about it very briefly on the Redman Originals podcast. Luis Diaz confirmed as our new number 7 for this season. That's now obviously 2 of the much vaunted 4 big number shirts that have now been filled for the season, with McAllister taking 10, still leaves 8 and 9 available for the Reds. It's interesting that Diaz has done this now. I wonder whether that means that's it now. Because there's been a lot of talk about, will someone from the squad take the 9, or will someone step up and take the 8? I think particularly if we're looking to maybe have 2 more midfielders, I'd like to think someone coming in is good enough to take that number 8 shirt. Now that it's had a bit of a palate cleanser with Naby Keita, it's not quite got the level of pressure on it had coming straight from Steven Gerrard. But yeah, is there a player in the squad right now that you would like to see, or players like to see in the 8 and 9? Let me know that in the comments if you don't mind. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm pleased. I think your number 7 should be a really technically gifted footballer. I think Milner's been brilliant, but he grabbed an opportunity there. And I'll be perfectly honest, as much as I've loved James Milner's time at Liverpool, like start to finish, brilliant for the Reds. I'd have been saying no. Sorry, James. No, not a chance. I mean, the fact that he's ended up left back and right back wearing the 7 shirt is cool. Look, Zidane took 5 at Real Madrid, which absolutely did my head in at the time as well. Milan Baros took 5 for Liverpool, absolutely did my head in. Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think Milner expected to do a whole season at left back. But yeah, fine. Good on him. Look, he's been one of the most successful players to ever wear the number 7 shirt for Liverpool. So it is actually a high bar for Diaz to kind of fulfill afterwards. But yeah, I mean that does feel, Luis Diaz feels more like a Liverpool number 7 to me, if I'm being honest. And yeah, we'll see how he handles that. Here's one. Here's a great super chat here. I like a bit of this. I don't know, unverified, but Craig Tebbs is a regular contributor, so I'm going to go with him on this. Who says Barella is number 23 that Diaz has vacated, and then gives it the eyes emoji. So like, just saying. I mean, look, better to get it done before the player comes in the door, right? Right? Maybe that's a little sweetener for Mr. Barella. Well spotted, Craig, if that is the case. If it's not, then, we've just wasted 30 seconds of our lives there talking about something, but go on. I'm all over that. Yeah, Mail in here just says Núñez 9, Mbappe 27. Sad. Yeah, absolutely. Gakpo 9, there's a good shout. Says King Jason 13. Emily Roberts says Turan will be 8 probably if we sign him, and Nunes is 9 now at LFC. Would be. Look, I don't think he's earned that number 9 shirt. And I mean, look, there's lots of players who've worn the number 9 shirts who didn't earn it, who got it anyway. I think if we just obviously we had Firmino last year, but if he just got it from last summer, we'd have all made our peace with it. But if he we had a big old chat about Darwin Núñez again on the podcast this week. If you haven't checked it out, do. But if he'd had the start of the season, if he'd flipped how his season went around the World Cup, so he had what he did in the start of the season, the back end of the season, I'd be feeling more excited about it. Whereas now, my head's totally kettled over Darwin. Hugo Santos says Turan will be number 23. I like that shit. It's actually a weirdly historic sort of Liverpool shirt. Obviously, it goes back to Robbie Fowler wearing it, and Jamie Carragher had it for his whole Liverpool career as well. Just a quick one here from Andy Kirkman. I saw this has come out, but I wanted to wait for it to develop before I talked about it, so I've not covered it properly. But Andy Kirkman asks, apparently Leeds United are interested in Nat Phillips. What would you say his value is? Probably now around 8 to 10. I mean, look, if he went for 5, I don't think I'd be shocked either. It's a real shame. I think after the COVID season, that was the peak his value was ever likely to be. He'd played a lot of football, so he was in shape. He'd played Premier League games. He scored a goal in the Premier League. And I think you could have got 15 million-ish for him. I'm not sure Championship clubs are in the market for centre halves 15 million and above, and I might be totally wild and wrong on that, but yeah, I'm not sure his value is more. I don't think we're going to get too much more than 10 million if I'm being honest. Russell Stubble here actually just says Barella would be 8. Yeah, I mean he would be very worthy. If you're going to get someone, have it be a world-class footballer come in and take that, to be perfectly honest. Right, okie dokie. I got more juice out of that than I was expecting. Well done, everyone. A couple of things from James Pearce's Q&A that he's done over the last couple of days on The Athletic. LFCZA, which I believe is LFC South Africa. Really good people, but they've got some quotes from it. And one that I thought was interesting was Thiago and Matip are down to their final year, but there's no sign of extensions being offered unless either of them pushes for the move this summer. I'd expect them to leave as free agents in 2024. I'm going to go and get the article up from The Athletic right now. So let's just click through this. And the question that was asked by a guy called Tommy M says, do you think the club would be interested in letting Thiago leave if an appropriate offer arrives? With the midfield rebuild and his injury record, it must be tempting to cash in if Saudi Arabian clubs come in. He will be a good impact sub if fit, but I don't think he will fit in with the way this team is evolving. And James Pearce said, Liverpool's position is that they're planning for next season with Thiago on board. The expectation is that he will leave as a free agent when his contract expires next summer. By then, he will be 33. Whether a big money offer from Saudi Arabia or anywhere else else in the coming weeks changes that stance, only time will tell. As things stand, there's no indication Thiago is eyeing a new challenge. He underwent hip surgery in May to ensure he would be fit for pre-season. His quality is undeniable, but a record of just 71 starts for Liverpool in all comps across 3 seasons underlines the fitness issues that have hampered him. It's interesting, the Saudi Arabian thing. I think if you were looking at the players, and both of those players that mentioned there, if Liverpool wanted to try and generate some funds, I think Matip and Thiago have both just got a year left. A year left on their contracts, so as mentioned earlier. You'd maybe be looking to push them, but at the moment, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's what I'm not. Maybe we should be doing that. In fact, if it was you, if you were in charge right now, if you're sat in Liverpool's transfer committee room or suite, as it probably is at the AXA now, would you be doing the groundwork? Would you be reaching out to all those Saudi PAF owned clubs and saying, would you fancy a little bit of either of these? Or would you rather keep them for a year and let them go on a free? Because I know this leaving on a free thing's become a bit of a hot button topic, as though somehow it's a really bad thing. I think there are examples where it is worth keeping a player till they run down, and Gini Wijnaldum, I think, was the best example of this. particularly if a player's not going to sign the new contract and you're wary about, or rather, they're not going to sign a contract length and value that you think is good value. What are you then selling them for, and how do you replace them in that window? If Liverpool are buying midfielders on bulk, fine. I'm a little concerned about churn, and I think there's probably in a roundabout way. What I'm saying is, I think there's value in keeping Thiago. If you got a 20 million offer for him, I don't think you can get a better midfielder than Thiago for 20 million pounds. Now, if that 20 million pounds was the difference between you signing Manu Kone and Barella, then maybe you consider it. But there is just something to keep. And another year of Thiago to train Bajcetic and to train Curtis Jones, and with his professionalism and the fact that he's won so much, and he's just a proper leader off the pitch as well as on it. There's added value to just having him for one more year and then cutting your losses at the end. If that kind of makes sense, that's just my take on it anyway. But yeah, if you've got any thoughts on any of those, do let me know. Right, I'm just going to quickly scan back through the comments and see what we've got. MP says professionalism's not worth 20 million. No, but again, it's not professionalism alone. You make it sound like he's just going to stand there and like with a watch and like a clipboard timing people when they come into work. You know, if you can get the right number of midfielders in the summer, so if you can add to McAllister like a Kefren Turan and one other, and you get to keep Thiago, then you actually get to choose how many minutes Thiago plays. Thiago tends to only get injured when he's been overplayed, and we've had to overplay him because we've had really injury-prone midfielders, not just Thiago. So he's had to play a lot of consecutive games of football. That's my take on it. I mean, I could be wildly wrong on that. John Sommers says, keep them both as their experience will be vital for us for the season. Yeah, it's a point my dad's been making for 20 something years. Where Liverpool have come undone, where good Liverpool sides have come undone in the past, is getting rid of experience out of the side. Too much experience too soon. When Houllier took Liverpool and won the treble, then the season after we went into the Champions League, and we finished. I think we finished second that season, second or third. Then it's often attributed to his heart problems and him maybe losing a little sight of what he was trying to do. But we let lots of experienced players like Littman leaves around that time, Gary McAllister leaves around that time, and we bring in younger football. Fowler had left the season before. And we're bringing in younger players to kind of run and hope that they're going to do the business. You need to have those guys around there because they set standards. They set standards in the dressing room. The manager can set standards, and assistants and whatever, and coaching staff set standards. But they talk about this leadership group at Liverpool, and when you've lost someone like James Milner, who is professionalism incarnate, but also has a use on the pitch, I think we'd agree that Thiago's got similar levels of professionalism, but is a better footballer than James Milner. Anyway, there is that. My Matip concern is that I'm not sure, and I think this actually goes for Thiago. I'm not entirely certain where they fit in the changed system, but I think unless we get some real movement or a really good offer or a really good deal for another player kind of presents itself, I think they'll keep him. They'll keep both rather than move on. We have got a super chat, which I'll come to in 2 seconds. But yeah, again, if you disagree, feel free to disagree. I think I think what gets overlooked is the art of squad building sometimes, because it is all about younger, faster, all that kind of stuff. If we replace Milner, Ox, and Keita with one or two lads who can play 3,500 to 4,000 minutes a season, you get the right to choose what you want to do with Thiago and Henderson long term, to be honest. Oh, there's an interesting thing, Paul. It was drawn my attention. Steve, I believe, he says check Paul Joyce's tweet, or retweet, lad. So there you go. So I've just gone over to see what that's all about. And Michael Reed, who's a brilliant statistician, has tweeted this, and he says, seeing a lot of talk of Liverpool fans wanting to sign 2 more mids plus a centre back, possibly a forward and a right back, but Liverpool only have 2 non-homegrown spots left in the squad. So any more than 2 additions would have to be either under 22 or homegrown, or see somebody leave. And then he's got a little look at that. So there is a little bit of a diddle that you can do in certain circumstances where you can promote youngsters to fill all of your homegrown slots. But yeah, I mean, Sepp Vandenberg and Nat Phillips being on that is a little concern because I would suspect both of them are going to move on this summer. Reece Williams could move as well. So Liverpool have got a real balancing act to do at the moment. And the issue with obviously signing Alexis McAllister and not someone like Jude Bellingham as an example is that yeah, there's a homegrown player. If you get Bellingham in, we were heavily linked with Mason Mount. That's obviously fallen by the wayside. I think I wonder whether the defensive pair if we buy the defender we buy, if we buy a defender, will be a homegrown player. We've seen a couple of names. We've seen Mark Guay from Palace linked. We've seen Levi Colwill from Chelsea linked as well. It is an interesting one. Yeah, I don't fully know how we go about balancing that one, but that's certainly something that will be a factor for consideration. But it does, yes, speak to someone will likely have to move otherwise. So yeah, definitely something to bear in mind when we're looking through how this stuff works. Right. Right. Okay. Here we go. Here's one from Jaden Granville. Mate, I'm not FSGL, but do you think that there has to be some self-sustained funding available worth a bit more than we're hearing? Self-sustained funding available worth a bit more than they're hearing. I don't fully understand the question. Is it to say that there's more money to spend within the club? Yeah, I guess it's so bad. Look, this is the problem. Is you know there's so many things written about Liverpool, so we all know more than most fans probably do know about the running of the football teams. My overall thing on this is, and it's because there was an article that talked about owner funding and how FSG and Liverpool are quite low down on that, whereas like there's clubs whose owners kind of find ways to fund push more money into the football club, and they've always wanted it to be self-sustaining. And look, when it works, it's worked really well. And most football clubs are trying to actively there's two football clubs are trying two approaches. They're either trying to copy what FSG have done with Liverpool, or they're trying to copy what City and PSG have had done, where mega rich owners come in and just, not just flood it with cash straight away, but find loads of really backdoor ways to use their wealth to circumnavigate FFP to inflate the revenues and the money available to be spent at the football club. That seems to be basically the two ways of doing it in English football at the moment. But I do think that there's something there that the Liverpool could push the button. It feels like they're trying to recreate that spark again to repeat the trick one more time. I don't know if it's possible because the landscape has changed in the last sort of 7 years, and whether it is possible to go again and do what they did again. While they've got Klopp, it's more likely than anything else. But I do wonder whether there's, and we'll come on to obviously we're going to talk about the Mbappe nonsense in a minute, but there is a bit of that to it. At some point, Liverpool might have to do something wild and really go and really push the boat out. Because at the moment, they don't have any saleable assets. That's the main issue. Is that really next summer they're going to have to sell Mo Salah, and that might be the thing that helps it kind of relaunch. But yeah, honest answer is I don't know. I do feel like if there was a time now to put a bit of your own cash in, this is the summer to do it. But I don't know. Ultimately, there's a possibility that Liverpool might spend within their means this summer, buy those players that we've mentioned. If you buy McAllister, Thuram, another midfielder, whomever that may be, let's say Gabby Vega, and you buy someone like a Colwell or a Julian Timber or whatever, you're probably pretty well positioned to be a good team again. I don't think anyone can compete with Manchester City this season coming. So I think there's you could spend all the money in the world. They've got an established squad that's just won the treble. Lots of their players, they've refreshed all the older players. There's only a couple of players who are on the fringes there in terms of like Mahrez and De Bruyne, who are heading out of their peak years. They seem pretty formidable. If they were to add another couple of £100 million players, like I say, a Declan Rice or whatever, what's the point? What's the point of throwing yourself into debt? You're not. It's almost fucking pointless. Which is not an indictment of Liverpool. That's an indictment of how Man City have been allowed to run roughshod over the rules in the league, which is what it is. It's like blaming yourself for not beating Lance Armstrong in a cycling race and beating yourself up. and saying, well, I should have trained more, I should have seen my kids less. Whereas in reality, you couldn't beat him because he was cheating. Right, just to go back to that Paul Joyce thing from Dave. Could you cover Paul Joyce's latest retweet? Yeah, as we've just done. Really highlights our lack of foresight, in my opinion. It's worrying considering some homegrown guys could yet leave. Well, look, it's only a lack of foresight if they don't sort it in this transfer window, I guess. And it's the long and short of it, ultimately. Yeah, it's foresight. Well, that would be it would be a horrendous lack of foresight if we are limited by what we can do. And we come September and Liverpool haven't been able to buy the players that they needed to buy or aren't able to register the players that they have done because of that level of mismanagement. That would be fucking stupid. I don't think that will happen because I just don't see how they could allow that to happen. But yeah. How can Robbo not be homegrown? He's... Okay, thanks, Sam. Apparently, Andy App asked the question. Okay. Oh, Tom, well done. Why Robbo isn't homegrown? For clarity, here are two relevant sections from the Premier League. A homegrown player means a player who, irrespective of nationality or age, has been registered with any club affiliated to the Football Association or the Football Association of Wales for a period, continuous or not, of 3 entire seasons or 36 months before his 21st birthday or the end of the season during which he turns 21. So we can see here why Andy Robertson, for example, is not on the homegrown list. Before he turned 20, he played in Scotland, so only had 1 year with Hull before 2021. For the 2019-20 campaign, under 21 players will have been born on or after 1998. I also think he's just Scottish, isn't he? So I don't know whether that counts. But thanks for that, Tom. I do think I think there's two kinds of homegrown as well, by the way. I think that is just English. I think there's Welsh count maybe because of the Welsh clubs there's Welsh clubs in the English football pyramid, maybe. I think there's that. I think there's two. There's like natural homegrown, which are ones that have effectively come through your academy as well. But yeah. Anyway, it's more complicated than I truly understand. Football Manager players have probably got a greater grip on this, right? Right. Well, okay, cool. Let's move on. We've got this one from Get Football News France. Liverpool have a strong interest in Rennes' Jeremy Doku. According to Mohamed Toubash Ter, Liverpool have a strong interest in Stade Rennais winger Jeremy Doku, 21. The Belgian international has a contract that runs until 2025. He arrived from Belgian side Anderlecht back in 2020 for a reported €25 million fee. He was a key member in Rennes' attack last season. Despite the club possessing an incredible wealth of young attacking talent, Doku featured 29 times in the league, scoring 6 goals and registering 2 assists during that time. That is not very good. Renowned for his impressive dribbling ability, the Belgian has attracted interest from the Premier League side Liverpool, according to Toubash Ter. The French journalist describes Liverpool's interest as very strong and likely to result in a transfer, though no agreement has yet been reached. Currently, there's no indication how much Doku would cost, but given Rennes' initial outlay on the winger and given he has 2 years remaining on his deal, he wouldn't come cheap. I'm just going to, for the sake of interest, follow through the link on Mohamed Toubash there to see what they're talking about and where they've got this from. So there's a little tweet run here. Begins with Mohamed Toubash Ter, who is followed by French football news, of course. I believe he's followed by Fabrizio Romano as well. I did see that earlier. He just put 4 bomb emojis, which are old school Danger Mouse style bombs with, presumably, I will have to trust that that's a picture of Jeremy Doku, and I know that's Jurgen Klopp for certain. And then someone called Canto Fan underneath replied, so let's have a little look at that. And he said, foreseeable that the English Championship is interested in him. After it's Liverpool helps to pass the pill, he will progress with Klopp. After that, it all depends on the price they will align. And then Mohamed replied, ce n'est pas fait encore rien, du calme, aha. L'intérêt est puissant and ça va d'être de gagner. Which means it's not done yet, huh? Kept you waiting, huh? Calm down, haha. The interest is powerful and it will / should draw. So Jeremy Doku, powerful interest in Jeremy Doku, apparently. Right, let's do it. There's 1,500 of you who've all decided to sit and listen to me chat wow about Liverpool squad numbers and homegrown player allotments. Centre goals, who've got a blue tick, which used to mean something and now kind of less so. 2 red warning signs. Breaking. Liverpool are willing to rival Real Madrid for Kylian Mbappe. They are ready, capitals, ready to pay 250 million euros for him. That comes from Marco Chiedemir via at Radio Marca. Bullshit. Bullshit. Not a chance. Not a chance in a million miles. And I've seen people mention this in the comments. I believe this is true. Marca, I'm right in saying the ones linked more closely to Madrid. Are they the Madrid paper? There's two Spanish publications, and I forget the other one. And one of them is a mouthpiece for Real, and one's a mouthpiece for Barca. So you find this a lot in recent years as well, that Liverpool's name have been used. In years gone by, it would have been Manchester United, but it's been Liverpool in recent seasons. Whenever there's a need to feel like they're trying to push a Real Madrid-led agenda, Liverpool's name get thrown into stuff quite a bit. There is no world, zero world, where Liverpool are paying 250 million euros for a footballer, and B, it being Kylian Mbappe if they did, because it's one or the other, right? And I don't think they can afford his wages anyway. But I think hypothetically, they could afford, if he was to come in on Mo Salah wages, so let's say 300 to 350 grand a week, they would pay that. They would pay the wage, but they wouldn't pay the transfer fee. Or they'll pay the transfer fee, but they won't pay the wage. That's kind of how it works, because they just never have the budget to do both. And to be honest, I don't think there's a club on the planet that has the ability to pay 250 million euros and what would probably be more like 400 to 500 grand a week for Kylian Mbappe. I don't think there's a club. The one, there's PSG, and he literally plays there already. Technically Man City, but they would have to have they'd have to generate a lot more very suspect sponsorships if they were going to do that. Real Madrid, are they even in, they don't have that kind of money anymore. I mean, it feels like the biggest load of bollocks I've ever seen in my entire life. The years have gone, I think, where Mbappe was a possibility. I think there's a world where COVID doesn't happen and Liverpool have built up and they probably sell Mane or Salah at the peak of their powers for 100 plus million, and they go and replace them with Mbappe. We're past that now. Liverpool are not that, certainly not this summer. This summer, Liverpool are a team that needs to add quantity more importantly than quality to their squad. They need quality, by the way. That's not to say they need to buy loads of shit players. What I mean is, there's a time in the development of your team where you need one or two absolute stars. Liverpool don't. Liverpool need 4 or 5 really good players that's just spread across the board to fill squad gaps. And hopefully they rise to become stars, which has been the model that they've had to this point, and it's worked spectacularly well. I think we can all agree on that. And I think that's why they didn't go mega hard on Bellingham ultimately, because this will depend on what Liverpool do next, by the way. If Liverpool get 3 midfielders for the grand total of about 120 million or less, then that's roughly, with all the add-ons, what it was going to cost to get Jude Bellingham. And that would make sense to me. But yeah, actually, there's just a super chat here from Neil Callaghan. Thank you so much, Neil. With €5, he said, if we end up with just Tyrone McAllister as the only incomings, how would you and the Redmen group react? Surely this would be a poor window. Yeah, God, that would be a very poor window if we only signed across the whole window between now and September. If Liverpool only sign Tyrone McAllister, that would feel like a poor window, like we haven't properly addressed everything. But I mean, again, I know these. I don't know whether this is a loaded question, because I often get this when people ask to read the worst case scenario or stuff. The world does move on, and football moves on, and players adapt and players improve. So there's a world where Liverpool start the season and, like, let's say Stefan Bacchetta just fitting back and starts the season, and he's just Cesc Fabregas too, and which is what he looked like in January. And Curtis Jones has gone up another level, having had a summer off and got back to playing football regularly and got over his injury issues. and Harvey Elliott, again, I don't know where he's improved. And then all of a sudden, those three that I've said, plus Thiago, Hendo, Fabinho as backups, with McAllister and Thuram as more regular first team options, they're playing the most amount of minutes out of the senior players. Maybe that would be enough. But right now, yeah, look, for where we are right now, I just want volume, and I want volume and quality because I want Liverpool to be the best. I do think we need another defender. I think particularly if we've let Calvin Ramsey go out on loan. And again, by the way, I mean, no one's going to be happy to hear me say the name Connor Bradley because we're all fucking miserable minge bags when it comes to apparently seeing young lads come through in the ranks. But again, and it's an if, I'm not saying that, let's just take a pure gamble on a player that's just played for Bolton in League One for the season, but you don't know. He might just be absolutely stellar and he might be the thing that covers the right back, and then whatever. I don't know. I'm speculating. We're all speculating because that's where we're at right now. There is no concrete Liverpool transfer news right now. So all we're doing is letting ourselves run riot with flight to fancy on everything. Let me know your thoughts on the Mbappe stuff. We have got one here just quickly. Yeah, actually, here's one from Mr. J Mango, who makes a good point. Oh, hang on a second. I've actually gone and put the wrong one. Let me see what this one is that I've just clicked from Mikeable. What do you do with Darwin? As he's an clock winger or striker, he's not good 1v1, agile dribbler, and he's not a high press link up player. No idea. I would keep him for a season and hope he's just Divock Origi Mark II, and then that's enough to sell him the summer after. Or he might be amazing. Which is also, I guess, a possibility. There was one from Mr. J Mango who said, I think, let me just see if I can find it, but if not, I think he said largely how Liverpool have been allowed to get to this situation. We look like we're more reactive than proactive. To some extent, yeah, but also we did buy Mane's replacement a window before we sold him, and we've bought Firmino's replacement a window before we left on a free, which is something Liverpool have never done before. We have never gone and got replacements anything earlier than the window in which they were actually moved on. So I'd say that's a great example of proactivity. But I just think they've just been left in a situation where there's just lots of work to be done, and this is the knock-on impact of doubling down on the players they had. Liverpool got the success they got because they needed to squeeze every drop of juice out of what they had, and that required players to be held on to longer than they would have done. And this is the thing, Liverpool's owners are criticised, and rightly so, for a lot of different things, but they didn't do the sell to buy model in the years when Liverpool were winning everything, because Klopp said, actually, no, just let me keep these players. But what also happened is that meant that players ran down their contracts and then reached an age where they then became uncomfortable giving them extended contracts. And Jordan Henderson's a good example of that. Is he we're getting less value out of him for effectively more money on a long deal because we needed to keep some lads around. Gini Wijnaldum was let go, Milner's been let go, Firmino's been let go, and we're kind of paying the price for pushing to the pinnacle to keep that team together, keep it together, pay them, extend the contracts, pay them more wages, don't have a high squad churn, because the unity and the understanding of the system will give us a leg up, an advantage, while City were rebuilding that first pre-Guardiola team when they were losing Fernandinho and Kompany and David Silva and Aguero. They've managed to keep it. They've been rebuilding. Liverpool capitalised on City having that little dip, and were able to win, the league and what have you as a result of it. So you could go back in time and change it, but another approach might not have yielded the silverware that it did, because God knows we've tried a million other ways of doing it in the past, and it yielded fuck all but a handful of cup trophies over the years. Right, sound. Let me just check I've not missed any super chats before I go. No, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. Right, if you haven't checked out the Bobby Firmino doc, do. Episode 1 is completely is available for free on our YouTube channel, but episode 2 is exclusively on redmanplus.com. If you go to redmanplus.com and sign up now, you can watch episode 2, which covers up to Liverpool winning the European Cup in Madrid. Phenomenal stuff, just phenomenal. And this Friday, episode 3 is coming out as well, which goes up to obviously winning the Club World Cup. The insight from Jordan Henderson on that final is amazing. And then obviously winning the league and then the 30-year wait and up to him leaving, all the emotions around that as well. The series is phenomenal. Don't just take my word for it. Watch episode 1 if you haven't and get the vibes and get a feel for it and see how you get on with it. And if you want 2 and 3, do. We've also got a content bomb dropping as well. There's a couple of little examples which I can show you on the channel. But the full interviews with people we've conducted. So just there, for example, Dave Jaggs, who's the guy from the Ragamuffins who turned Si Senor into the pop version of it, which you'll have all played to death on Spotify. There's a full interview with him talking about the construction of that song and obviously Bobby Firmino. The Jordan Henderson interview in full will be dropping this weekend. We've got full interviews with 2 former Liverpool CEOs who were in the rooms when the big decisions were happening at the football club during that period. Adam Lallana's in there. We've got an interview with Ozan Kabak, for God's sake. We're going thorough. We want to know more than anyone ever needs to know and beyond about Bobby Firmino, and get some great insight into Liverpool Football Club over the last sort of 8 years. Redmanplus.com. Go and check it out. Right. Sound. Thank you. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you to everyone who's commented, who's joined in the comments. Have a boss day. And yeah, hope you do come and check out the rest of Bobby Firmino Best in the World, because it's going to leave a huge Bobby-style smile on your face.
You could see he had ability, definitely.
The most skillful number 9 Liverpool have ever had.
He was part of one of the greatest teams Liverpool have ever put together.
A legend forever.
Gives everything for the fans and everything for the club.
Everyone to a person said, I love Bobby Firmino.
Great example of hard work, of dedication on and off the pitch.
He's one of them players, he does a lot of things for the team that goes unnoticed.
He's world class.
Já no CRB ele já era visto como uma promessa, mas ele decidiu ir para o futebol da Alemanha.
Hat Hoffenheim als das gesehen, was es ist, ein Ausbildungsverein, ein kleiner Verein, der für ihn den nächsten Schritt ermöglicht für die Seleção, für einen größeren Verein.
I knew sooner or later he will leave the club because he was definitely for something bigger.
You know, you fly across the world and all of a sudden we're signing this deal that would become incredible for the team.
Firmino had a quiet start at Liverpool.
When Jurgen first came in, and seeing people don't realise how good he is.
The confidence was there. He knew the manager backed him, trusted him.
Bobby was the key that made that team work so well.
Champions League, European Super Cup, Club World Cup, Premier League in the space of 13 months.
He was right at the heart of everything.
Part of the team that brought the title back. That team will never be forgotten.
I'm going to be telling my kids and my grandkids about what Bobby Firmino did at Liverpool Football Club.
He'd be a big miss for everyone.
You had a chance to watch episode 1 of Bobby Firmino Best in the World, our brand new documentary series. If you haven't, check out episode 1 right now on YouTube. And if you want to watch the full series, head to redmenplus.com. Episode 2, episode 3, and full interviews with all of the incredible contributors, including Liverpool skipper Jordan Henderson. It will be there for you. Go over, fill your summer with Bobby happiness, with Bobby Firmino Best in the World, our exclusive doc.